Alright, just gonna go over the markets again. We'll just use the Dow Mini Futures and see what happened. So what you had was, initially the market was in a downtrend, and then you had this initial wave here. This happened around 8:30. Around 8:38. Okay, so you had this initial rally, and this rally was strong. It took out the prior high. It took out the prior high, and it did it with high volume. Now, one I don't know what to say. One application of high volume is that typically support or resistance areas are taken out with a thrusting bar or a high volume bar, or both. Over here, this right here is a bullish indication. There's no such thing as like a signal in isolation. You take a look at, unless it's a mechanical signal, but in Wyckoff's study, what he did was look for bullish indications, not a bullish indicator. He would take a look at bullish and bearish indications and try to put them together to see if they were meaningful enough to put on a trade. So over here, what you have is you have the first evidence, or first bullish indication here, which is high volume breakout. Okay, and it had follow through, and then it corrected. And what's notable here is that there was a high volume pullback here. So this high volume break was an attempt, and that attempt had no follow through and was reversed. So when you're taking a look at charts, one of the things to do is look for failure. Failure, another word for it in my book, is effort reward, which means one side tries to push down the market but can't. And how do you detect that? You detect that with volume. So over here you have heavy volume, no follow through, and an immediate reversal. So this is your second bullish indication. Your second bullish indication is here. Your first bullish indication is here. High volume breakout followed by a failure on the part of supply to go lower after heavy volume came in. This sometimes also can be a way of testing the market, where one side tries to test the market by selling a lot of contracts and seeing if price can go lower or not. And if it can't go lower, that means the ease of movement is towards the other side. In this case, supply tried, and there was a lot of volume, and it could not go lower, which means there was failure, and that ease of movement is on the upside. So this high volume break represents effort reward, which is the same thing as failure. Alright, and Wyckoff said, in his in just the initial part of his study, to look to see, as supply and demand are struggling against one another to gain position, look for where they failed. So that's, in a way, is the same thing as effort reward. So we have a first bullish indication, second bullish indication, and then it eventually breaks out. I don't see high volume on the breakout, although it was more than the prior two bricks. I don't really see anything exceptional here. Then later on, around this area, this prior resistance area is where the volume came in, and there's the high volume attempt and the high volume successful attempt to break out above the prior pivot high. So you see that the first pivot high had a high volume attempt with follow through, broke out right above it, and the second pivot attempt also had high volume, which broke out right above it. So then you see that obviously the price is continuing to go higher, and it pulls back. And when it pulls back on, again, high volume. What is the interpretation of this? Remember, when I'm talking about failure, high volume attempt, up here was stopping action. Then they tried to sell and were unable to take price lower, unable to react lower. Instead, price went up, which means that ease of movement is up. So supply failed once again to go lower, allowing demand to go higher. And I think that this was probably the first area to get a pullback. I mean, it would have been great if there was a pullback in this area, but there wasn't, right? So there's no opportunity for a pullback here, but this did pull back to the same area where supply failed to go lower. So when demand comes back into that same area where supply had initially failed to go lower, it's a good place to take a position, because supply has already proved that it is unable to go lower. And you get this retest opportunity, and this was the place to initiate the long. Any case, so this again is failure. This is failure on the part of supply, failure again on the part of supply, and failure is, if it's on the part of supply, it's bullish. So it comes back, rallies, comes back to test on low volume, because nobody wants to sell that area. And that provided the opportunity, and then high volume continue. High volume meaning, if supply can't go lower, people, traders are going to identify that and they're going to go long. Why? It failed to go lower, ease of movement is up, so price retests on low volume selling, and the buyers come back in. And this is what this high volume represents. It represents buying. It represents buying from an area that failed to go down and now has again failed. I wouldn't say failed, but is showing a lack of selling pressure as identified by low volume. Then after that, you see the high volume brick come in, and these are buyers that are interested, and they're buying at these levels to take price higher. So price goes up. This high volume brick is breakout volume. As you can see, the pivot high was broken. The high was broken with high volume as expected. So you have multiple times have shown here, pivot high broken with high volume, here pivot high broken with high volume, here pivot high broken with high volume, right? So multiple places the highs are being broken by a high volume. What is causing the volume to be high at those areas? Well, there could be many things. Typically, it's because any sell orders right there are being absorbed. Okay, so you have a high volume breakout with follow through, pulls back, and again you have what? You have interest on the part of buyers to go higher. See that? So buyers are coming back in and saying, give it to me, I'll buy more. Okay? Now, I prefer a deeper pullback, but we didn't get it. What we did was price came back, high volume came in, and they wanted some more. So eventually the market went 3 bricks higher. as it went 3 bricks higher, it encountered a lack of volume at the top. Okay, it encountered a lack of volume at the top, and this was a lack of interest up in this area. So now price went and retested this high volume area. There was buying, but it wasn't really sufficient enough to take out this area. And why? Because on the higher time frame, you're at a resistance area. You must have the higher time frame whenever you're trading, because it will identify other areas where other people might be buying or selling. It is critical. So now what is this representing here? You have corrective action, you have a high volume attempt. In my book, it seems like as the market pulled back to this area of interest, there were buyers that wanted to buy some more, but their high volume here is not really producing a new high. This is a lot of volume. These 2 bricks loaded up, so you have to be careful now, because they could have bought here, but they're buying here. So what does that mean? Why aren't they buying at the same level on the retest? Maybe it's because they're not buying. Maybe it's because someone else is selling it. As price is coming up here, someone else might be selling. And this obviously there's buyers for sellers, but it seems like this block here is something else. It's not buying interest. It's something else. Okay? So now what we have, it could be many things, but if it was buying, the ease of movement would continue to be up, and you would have had follow through, and price would have made a new high. But instead, it goes down. Price goes down after these high volume. Price goes down. So someone offloaded something up here on these 3 bricks, this heavy volume, and I'm of the mind that this is possible distribution up here, or maybe they're getting out of early long accumulation, and they're selling up here to take their profits, because they realize, hey, we've gone to a resistance area on a higher time frame, let's get out. So maybe that's what they're doing, but for sure it's not buying volume, because if it was, price would have upside movement and ease of movement would be higher. But you have a rally down, and when it was retested, sellers came in again. Okay, so you're at this point here where the market needs to decide whether it wants to break or wants to go higher. And it is just, all it has done is go back to this support level. Okay, so this is the last low before the high, and this is the support level, or at least an initial support level, the first support level that the market would need to break in order for lower prices to come. Should be noted that on the higher time frame we have a lot of volume. If you look over here in the higher time frame, this range right here of 22,200 to 22,320, a little bit higher, but this range here, this is some type of zone. I don't know if it's supply zone, demand zone, or any of that, but there could be accumulation, it could be reaccumulation, it could be distribution. We don't have a clear idea, but there's something going on here. Alright, there's initially there was selling, and now this wave here looks like buying, but there's something going on here. And this is what they do: sell, buy, sell within that zone. So it's very hard to detect So we have to wait for confirmation, which is price must enter markup or markdown. Alright, and one other thing to note is that this last attempt to sell has only one break. That's very important. Demand and today's rally, also the way it rallied so vigorously, is also very important. So does that mean that from a lack of selling there's a lot of demand coming in? And I don't know. We'll see if there's follow through, and it has to clear this upper area out, about 22,400 area. So we'll see what goes on. If right here on the lower time frame, if there's a break or not, I really don't know. All I know is eventually this market will start trending again, like it was, offering awesome pullback opportunities. When that happens, you can establish trades. If you're a pullback trader, this is how you trade. You wait for rallies in a trend and buy near the low of the rally, as close to the low of the rally. That is basic pullback trading. Alright, good luck.